Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 28. And in this episode, I just want to show you a little trick, or one of the many tricks that you can do to get a painterly feel in your paintings and your images. Now, this is not the only way. I'm gonna do a disclaimer real quick. This is not the only way, um, or this is just the only way that you can, the only way to get painterly feel. This is just one of many, and I think it's very powerful tool if you know how to use it right, just like every other tool in Photoshop. And I recently learned this probably about a year ago, and after I tried it a few times and just kind of play with it, I you have to kind of find your way on how to use it. And again, it's just like everything else. Like if you were doing photo bashing or my painting techniques, you just gotta kind of find your way and how that fits to what you want to do. And so this is gonna apply to this, and I'm gonna show you the one of the many ways that I use this. But again, this is not just the only way to use it, or or just the only way to get that painterly feel or brushstrokes in your image. Now, this is not a free software plugin. It's called Akvis. Um, I'm not sure how much it goes for now, but it was considerably cheap when I got it. It was probably, I think it was like around $60, and it's pretty much a kind of like a standalone or inbuilt plugin that you can put in Photoshop. And Akvis has multiple kind of like different versions, but the one that I use is called Akvis Oil, and I'm gonna show you how I use it during this painting here that I have. Now, what you see here now is just a final result, and I'm gonna go back a few steps back so I can show you how I apply it. Now, sometimes when I do photo washing, or where I use my painting techniques, sometimes I don't want it to look too photographic and just like all the little noise and details that the photographs use, like for example in this mountain here, and in some of these foreground trees and stuff, and or even in sometimes when I do 3D renders, I want to get rid of that blocky, uh, stiff kind of 3D render or model. So I use this is one of the techniques that I use to kind of get rid of that as well. And also, if I just want to get a cool look, just to kind of get some brushstrokes in before I actually start my painting and adding my own brushstrokes into the image. Okay, so I'm gonna do it with this one. And when you install it, you can either use it as a standalone software or built in Photoshop, which is the one that I use. And if you go after you install it and everything, you go to your filters, and it's gonna be right under here under Akvis oil paint, right? But first, what I want to do is I actually want to make a copy layer of everything that I have visible here on my layers. And I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna select everything, Control Shift C, which is copy everything that it's in the canvas, and then Control V just to kind of paste that. And now I have a layer of the whole image in my canvas here. Now I can apply things to this and kind of mess around with it without damaging my progress on my layers here. And so I have that layer in, and I'm actually gonna duplicate that again so I can work on that one and then just keep the base one intact. Now I'm gonna do my filter, Akvis oil paint, and that is gonna load Akvis into Photoshop. It's gonna bring this new window. Now I already have some settings set up, saved that I have saved through time, and just kind of like what I usually use. But you can already see that as I move my window here, I'm getting these brush strokes here into the image that are already doing something interesting to some of these parts. I'm gonna treat this as a Photoshop filter where I don't want to apply it on everything. I want to be really careful how I use it. But let me go through some of these settings here, so real quick. So if I go to the top left here, and I go here into this button here, this is gonna be my brush direction. So when I go to that setting here, I can kind of just draw how I want my brush strokes to go. And let's say I want something like this here, like that. Let's do something like this. Now I could go really long like this, and I'll get longer brush strokes. Or I could get very detailed, and I'll get smaller, more detailed brush strokes. Right. I sometimes will do this because I sometimes like, or most of the time, I like the randomness that I get from the settings that I already have set up. But in very specific cases, I want to do this. And so this is gonna, you don't have to fill the whole page. It's just gonna kind of do it in certain areas, and then it will fill up the areas where you didn't with whatever settings you have. And once you're happy with it, then you can just go to play here, and then it will apply that. And that's gonna load. And now you're gonna start seeing how those brush strokes, for example, his really long brush strokes here, got apply into the image here, right? Now, actually, when I save this, just so we can keep it, I'm gonna press OK, and then that applies it. Now, I've got another layer here. And for example, what I like to do is I like to do a bunch of variations of this, and then kind of pick and choose where I want these brushes to kind of apply. So for example, if I really like what happened here on this area with the brush strokes and what happened here, what I'll do is I'll just put a mask on it, paint it black, just so kind of I don't see everything. And then with the texture brush with white on my mask, I'm gonna start kind of just applying little by little just that Akvis brush strokes that I recently added and that I like. But I'm just gonna do it on that area because that's what I liked. Just gonna touch that just a little bit here, and I kind of like the long ones that happen here, so I'm just gonna go very light here, there, and the same thing on this side. Now this is something that you probably won't notice if you weren't part of the progress, unless you do it very, very, very hard. But it's just something that kind of adds little by little towards the final image. But you get the idea here. And so if I turn it on and off, it's very subtle. This is not as subtle, but like I'll actually erase some of these ones here. It's creating some contrast that I don't want. And then I'll go back and forth and just kind of bring up or erase some of these areas. Again, this is too much here. And let's say I'm happy with that, right? Okay, so let's do it again. Now I'm gonna duplicate my base layer here. And this is something that I do probably either twice or just once. If I do it once, I'll do it right at the end of the whole process. If I do it twice, I do it right before I do my own painting strokes. So after I set up all my renders, I do most of my photo batching and all that. I do a pass on Akvis, and then after that I'll just start painting, probably do a little bit more photo batching on that, finish my image with my post effects and everything that I have to do post, and then I'll finish it up. So it's not something that I do many times throughout the process. I'll probably do it just once or maybe twice. Okay, so I duplicated my layer. I'll do it again. Go to filter, Akvis, all paint. Now I want to show you now some of these right-handed settings here. Now simplicity, they're pretty self-explanatory, but simplicity just kind of simplifies. I'm gonna bring everything down here so you just can see what they do. simplicity, the more you have, is makes it like super simple. It just kind of, and it's almost blurred out, but it's a little bit different than blurred out. But this really works if for things that are very far in the background where you want to have some kind of more of a silhouetted type of effect to your things. So, for example, the edge here of the mountain here and the edge here, that will work very well with that. So just to kind of have more simplified version of what you have. But I wouldn't do something like that, for example, here, because then I lose all that nice detail and the architecture and stuff. Okay, so this is something that I keep very low most of the time, and so yeah. So let's bring that to 0 here. The saturation is pretty much that. It's just going to increase your saturation. Let's bring that down. Max stroke length, that's going to be how long your strokes are going to be. Now you're going to see the strokes here are very thin, and that's because the thickness and the white background strokes are on the lowest setting. But you're going to see here that the strokes are getting longer. And if I go shorter here, they're going to get shorter and shorter. So you're going to be more strokes, but shorter. Okay. Stroke thickness, I'm actually gonna keep this on 6 here. Stroke thickness, it's gonna be how thick they are. And you're gonna see that they're getting wider and wider here on this area. Now, there's a good relationship within the length and the thickness. So if you have a very low length but a high thickness, you get this really short square strokes in the effect. So sometimes I don't want that, because I don't want, especially for this type of backgrounds here where there's everything soft, it may look kind of a little bit weird. But let's go over here, and in here it looks kind of like you get these spotty differentiations, different kind of spots in value and stuff, which kind of adds to the details here. But if I increase the length, the relationship between the thickness and the length kind of interacts a little bit better. And this is kind of true with all the settings. So you just kind of have to find a good relationship between all these settings at the same time to kind of get the effect that you want. So I don't see them as individual settings that will work good by themselves. I kind of have to kind of mix them and kind of play with them just to kind of get the effect that I want. And so let's bring this down. Stroke intensity. Actually, let's bring this a little bit higher here. Stroke intensity is gonna be how much contrast is gonna be in that stroke. So you're gonna see it's gonna be a little way more streaky as you increase the intensity. I usually don't have this very high, but for the use that I use it, I have it kind of like mid-level, and then I'll show you a way to kind of decrease that whole streaky look to it. That's gonna come in a little bit. Curvature is pretty much gonna give it a curve to your strokes. So let me increase the intensity so you can actually see that. They get a little bit curvy. So, or if you want them just straight strokes, just keep that low. And white background strokes, it's going to be very similar to the thickness, but it's going to increase the width of that. I do like a lot that one. But it kind of gives you like an overall stroke to kind of everything. The whiter I get, and so I'm keeping the intensity high so you can actually see the strokes. And random strokes is gonna randomize your strokes, so you can kind of, this is the one that you can actually play around with and it won't do that much difference to these settings over here. So, and so yeah, so that's that. Let me find something here that I kind of like. I should just bring intensity and some of the white strokes. Let's bring the intensity a little bit higher. Like that, right? So that's the first part. Now, some of the things that I look for also when I do this is kind of when you have multiple, like for example here, you have different hues in your image. Sometimes you get a kind of like this hue, this warm light hue. It's gonna just kind of go cross over some of this area here. Like if I go here, you're gonna see that. Let me see. Like for example, here, I guess some of this orangey kind of just go up like that, and that could. For example, here also, that could add some energy to your image. So I always kind of look for areas where that could happen without screaming out loud too much. And it's kind of like the neat things that, or happy accidents that could happen as you work with Akvis here. So I always kind of look for those opportunities, and then I'll play around with the mask and just kind of apply that wherever I want to. So the other part that I don't use a lot, but sometimes I do, and this is a painting tab here, but if you go to your abstract art, this is going to play a lot with your hues and saturations and all that. So sometimes what I like to do, I like to go a little bit crazy with this, and let's actually bump the color and saturation, contrast. And now I don't want to have this purple, so I'm gonna change the hue here, and maybe I want to have some. Let's go down here, and let's do more of a warm color here. Let's bring the saturation a little bit. More of the warmth. And what I'm thinking is, I want to get the effect of getting some warm bounce light into these edges or faces facing away from the light. Now again, what you see here in the preview is crazy, but we can always control that after the fact, and put a mask on it and just kind of play with that. So I'm gonna go a little bit crazy with it just to kind of experiment and see what that can give me. And I'm actually just gonna go here and reduce, simplify a little bit these strokes, and I'm just gonna let's see the result of that. So I'll press OK. That's gonna load in, and then that's gonna give me this, right? And I have my 3 layers. So I have my base layer, which is my backup. I have the crazy warm here, and I have this other one which kind of applies a little bit on these areas here. But I'm gonna play with this one. So what I'll do first is I'm gonna actually put this online, and what you see here now is that I get this, in some areas I get this really nice effect in some of these areas, which is exactly what I was looking for. And so what I would do is I'll put that on a mask, paint the mask on black, and sometimes I go back and forth, like I paint it white just to kind of see the areas that I like having that effect, and I'll go back and just paint those in. So let's say I want some of that warmth on this side, and I'll bring it on this side, I'll bring it on this side, this side. It's just kind of touch-ups here and there, just to kind of get a little bit of hue variation in the painting. And so this is one of the ways that could help you with that. Now I can always, let's say this is too pinky. I can always go to my layer and just kind of play with the hue and saturation here. And just to kind of try and see, like that. It is too much down here, so I'm gonna erase some of that. The cool thing about this also is that it will give me a kind of like a base to kind of do my paint over whenever that time comes. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna start painting. I'll do my regular layer on top, and now I can grab some of this color and just to kind of use that a little bit more in some of these areas. And just bring my opacity and flow up. And that way helps me in a different way, which it will give me like a base color or hue or value that I like, and I'll use that to do my own paint. Right? And you can go, you can go really crazy. Like after this, if you kind of did that, you can always duplicate that again and apply that all paint. Now let's do a little bit on the other side. So let's do kind of like my blues. Let's go there, and let's actually do really long strokes. Check some of these areas. And sometimes this doesn't work. Sometimes it works, but it's a pretty fast process where you can actually experiment with it and not waste too much time if nothing comes out of it. So I'm gonna put this on line, and sometimes I put it on screen, but usually line works the best most of the time, at least for me. So now I get these really areas where maybe I could apply, and that looks too greenish, so I'll just, with my hue and saturation, just kind of play around with that. So I have a mask, paint it black. I kind of like something that happened here with my blues. I want to be careful it doesn't get too streaky in some of these areas, but I can always go back on my mask and kind of play around with the areas that I wanted to affect. Now I'm very careful with the areas that I want to keep soft. And for example, this whole background behind everything here, everything is soft because of the mist and clouds and stuff. So I really don't want to apply this effect to it because I want to keep that softness. So I have to be careful with the locations that I apply this effect into it. All right, and there you go. So I wouldn't stop here if I was making this this actual painting. Like I will apply a little bit more in some of these areas with my regular strokes. So for example, I can duplicate this again. Let's go to my Akvis, and I have some settings already saved up, but let's bring everything here to 0. Go to my painting, and I have 2 here that I already use a lot. So let's bring that here. Let's use the first one here. Just gonna apply that. Now either I could use it as is with my mask and just gonna simplify some of the shapes, so I can put it on lining, and then I will get some of those strokes. So you can see here on the soft areas, the edges get harder, right? And I lose that effect. So that's something that I don't want for sure. So I'll put a mask painted black, and I want to apply it just on some of these areas here and here. So I'll paint my mask black, and then with a texture brush, I'll just go in and kind of apply that the places that I want to. And that way I have way more control about this. And there you go, and that's how I use it. So there's other many ways that you can use it, but just kind of have to play with it, and just kind of find your way to use this. But I think it's a very powerful tool. It's pretty cheap as well. So so yeah, so that's about it. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope this helps you in any sort of way. And I'll see you guys on the next video.